with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. My name is Sarah Nelson. I'm the International President of the Association of Flight Attendants, and we have 4 New York area flight attendants here with us to tell their stories about what this past year has been like with coronavirus, what the Payroll Support Program has meant for them, and what we need to do going forward to continue to protect everyone. I am here with the magic of a ring light and makeup with tips from SAG-AFTRA members. I have coronavirus right now, and it has hit my family hard. And so I didn't want to miss this opportunity to be with all of you, to be with Majority Leader Schumer, who was so integral to making sure that we would be able to keep our jobs, and also to remind us that we're in the middle of this pandemic and we've got to work together to get out of it. So it's critically important. It's hitting people in a lot of different ways all over the country and around the world. And we need to continue to take care of each other, to make sure that we have the ability to take care of ourselves and our families and move forward. So pardon my voice, and thank you for your good thoughts and prayers. We'll take all of those too. It is extraordinary that we are here talking about this Workers First relief package that we achieved in the CARES Act in March. Now, I want to tell you that our union knows very well what happens in crisis when hedge fund managers, bankruptcy attorneys, bottom feeders in Wall Street want to prey off of companies that hit hard times and extract concessions from workers. And that is where we were headed in the middle of this. While everyone was talking about the essential workers and flight attendants as essential workers on the front lines, there was nothing backing up that term. No hazard pay, no PPE, not enough PPE to go around, concerns about safe working environments, and no backup for our jobs. So we made sure that we were proposing a Workers First package. What this meant was that any relief package from the government would be focused around workers first. So the Payroll Support Program was a grant program to go to the airlines that could only go to pay and benefits of workers, 2.1 million aviation workers, to keep us in our jobs, no cuts to hourly rates of pay, no cuts to service to our communities to continue that critical infrastructure that it would help support our country as we're fighting the virus, and turning it on its head of what would normally be a bailout that people hate, where corporations walk away with bonuses and stockholders get rich off of those bailouts. No, we put a ban on stock buybacks and a cap on executive compensation well after the relief period ends. So we got this proposal to Chairman DeFazio and Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer. And Leader Schumer, leading at the time the minority in the Senate, got the Senate together, and the Democrats voted together and stopped a package that Mitch McConnell had put forward for $1 trillion. It did not include our payroll support. It did not include support for workers. It included liability shields and no transparency in how this money would get out to corporations. That was stopped with the leadership of Leader Schumer. And then 2 days later, he and Leader McConnell went to the Senate floor and announced that they had a deal on twice as much in recovery for the American people. Now, when they announced that, we still did not have our payroll support. Our payroll support was still on the table. And it took the rest of the night. That was 1 o'clock in the morning that they announced that. And it took until 8 o'clock in the morning, the last thing on the table, Leader Schumer and his staff leading the way for us and fighting every step of the way to make sure that the union proposed plan that we had gotten management to come and agree with us on, that we were united on around that, the union proposed plan would survive. And there were people fighting very hard to make sure that that wouldn't happen. The end result was some discretion for the Treasury Secretary, and he promised that he wouldn't erode the program. But what happened after the law was passed was that there was concern that he was going to create a program that the airlines wouldn't take, because we had to have the airlines take the program in order for it to work. And Leader Schumer stuck with us for the next month in making sure that those agreements were put together in a way that the airlines would accept and would support our jobs. Now, because of all the chaos of this year, we did not have a relief package in place in time to stop the furloughs in October. And exactly what we said
Hi,
would
Sarah.
happen.
I'm
Hi,
here.
Leader Schumer. Oh, I'm so happy
I'm
that you're
ready
here.
to go whenever you are.
Wonderful. So let me just finish up here, because you really were our hero. You not only demanded that this be in the CARES Act, it was the true workers first package that we hoped would be a template for everyone else. But it was the last thing on the table that you fought for, and then stuck with us in fighting with Secretary Mnuchin to make sure that those agreements would get out the door and that our jobs could be saved. And again, stuck with us until we finally got the president to sign it, albeit late, but a bridge to a place where we can talk about real relief now for the American people. And from all the members of the Association of Flight Attendants, I just have to tell you how thrilled we are to call you Senate Majority Leader Schumer. And we are with you. So we have 4 New York residents here to talk about their very real stories over this past year. After you give some remarks, and talk about how much it has meant, your leadership on making sure that we could have this workers first package in place, and how we're going to work with you to make sure that we continue it.
Thank you, Sarah. And let me repay the compliment. Sarah was relentless, whether it was 3 in the morning on a Sunday night or whatever. She was relentless. And I think probably you can say there are 2 people without which this wouldn't have happened. And they're both on this screen, Sarah and me. And she was just incredible to work with. She cared so much about all of you and making sure you could continue to do your jobs and have a decent life, which, you know, the Flight Attendants Association has always worked for, even in good times and bad. But I was amazed with both her passion and her knowledge of how to get things done. You can have passionate people who don't know how to get things done, and you can have people who know how to get things done, but they have no passion, so they don't pursue the right thing. She had both. But Sarah, I am going to ask you one thing in return, and everyone on this Zoom call, one thing in return. Sarah, please send a letter, a note, an email to every single member of your association in New York, I don't care outside, that I really went to bat for them. Because I see flight attendants all the time, and they say, and I say, hey, I work for you, and they have no idea, okay? Because they don't know, they weren't part of it. I don't blame that. And then, so you promise to do that, Sarah?
Absolutely, and many of them are watching you right now.
Great, great. Yes, and second, everyone on this Zoom call, please let your friends and families know I go to bat for you. That's very important for an elected official. And we did so much in that bill that the word didn't get out who did it, although it was done. So I ask you, everyone on the call, raise your hand and promise you'll tell 10 of your family and friends Chuck Schumer helped you out. Okay, raise your hands.
It's really important. We're going to keep you in place because you have fought for us like nobody else. Thank you.
So let me say a few things, and then we'll hear the stories from the people here. First, I love flight attendants. You're just great people. Everyone knows and watches, anyone who flies, and I fly all the time. There are certain professions that attract fine people, maybe because they have to care about other people, you know, and that's what you have to do. And the overall quality of who the people are and how much you all care on your jobs matters a great deal to me and to everybody else. So I thank you for that. I thank you for really caring. Second, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my experience on January the 6th, because it's so relevant. So there's a novel by Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities, and in it the author begins by saying it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That's, for me, was January 6th. January 6th was a week ago Wednesday, and I stayed up, or 2 weeks ago Wednesday. I stayed up past Tuesday into Wednesday, because Tuesday was election day in Georgia, because those 2 Georgia senators, had they won, I'd become majority leader, which matters to working people, because I can do more for you as majority leader, and Mitch McConnell will still try to thwart you as he did, but he'll have less power to do it, although he still has some. Anyway, So at 4 in the morning, I learned that these two senators from Georgia had won, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to become majority leader. No one thought that would ever happen. It's been a dream of mine. I went to bed, woke up at 7 in the morning, drove down to Washington, D.C., and got on the floor of the Senate at 1. And within an hour, a big policeman with a bulletproof vest and a submachine gun across his waist grabbed me by the collar, actually, and said, come on, Senator, we're getting out of here. Got to get out of here. I was within 30 feet of these violent insurrectionists in our capital, within 30 feet. So that is and we're going to go after them, and I know this administration will find them and charge them. One way you can help out, flight attendants could be very helpful here. The FBI has a list of about now 800 pictures of people who were in the building. Go on their website, you might recognize someone. You never know. And you say, oh, that's the guy who always flies from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. I don't know. And call it into the FBI. It's been remarkably helpful. Anyway, we're going to go after every one of these people and give them long jail sentences, both because they deserve the punishment, but second, because it'll deter other people from doing it again. So that's, and I believe Donald Trump, for what he did, should no longer not only not be president, but never be allowed to be president again. And if we convict him of impeachment, we can do that with 51 votes for what he did. Anyway, we'll leave that aside for the moment. So on your stuff, yes, we worked really hard. And Sarah and I have a fella named Jerry Petrella from Long Island. Sarah and he got to know each other better than they probably know their brothers and sisters, at least for a 6-week period. And we came up with this plan. And we had two big obstacles. The major obstacle was there were a whole lot of people who didn't want to help the airlines out. They got in trouble. They deserve it. They didn't understand that the airlines are not the CEOs of the company and the board of directors of the company, but they are you and the mechanics and the baggage handlers and everybody else who works for the airlines. And so it was very hard to convince people to do this. The administration was initially opposed. Mnuchin is very conservative, didn't want to give any grants throughout. He wanted only loans. And the airline said, if you give us loans, we're going to have to lay off huge amounts of people. So that was the first. But the second problem was making sure the money went to the right place. And they really did an exquisite job crafting legislation that was workers first. And as Sarah said, this should be a model whenever an industry is in trouble. Look, the airline industry got in trouble through no fault of their own. Now, when some of them came to visit me and I said, we desperately need money for us, I said, you just did $15 billion of stock buybacks. You should have given that to the workers. I hate stock buybacks. We wanted to make sure that still, even though they did those things, the descent of the airlines industry, so to speak, was not because of them, it was because of COVID. So it wasn't anybody's fault. But the people who were blameless were you and your coworkers. And so we wanted to make sure. So the second big challenge was to make sure that the money went to workers. And so we crafted it just so that it would not go to anything else. We said that no, they can't furlough anybody. We said they should call back the people who were involuntarily furloughed. Some people took an agreement, and they did that, I guess, semi-voluntarily. And we said that they can't use this money for anything else, nor can they use any other of their money for stock buybacks or dividend payments. And we even limited the compensation that the CEOs could get. Why should they get $2 million and they're laying off people, hardworking people who need the money to support their families? And we succeeded. And I was up till 3, 4 in the morning, night after night. And you were the last thing in the first bill, because you know why? As minority leader, the 4 leaders agreed. The majority leader has more power, but they have to agree. And I said, we're not doing any bill unless we have this in it. Plain and simple. So we got it in. Now, here was the problem with the first bill. It ran out on, what was it, September 30th? Because we all figured COVID will be over by then. Because you remember, when we passed this in March, Everyone said, okay, it'll be here a while and everything will be fine in the summer, but it wasn't. So we had to go through this struggle all again with the same idea. And again, you had so many people. There's a guy named Toomey. He's not running again, so I'm not being political here, from Pennsylvania, who was one of the leaders of the Republicans on economic issues. And he said, no money. This is not how free market enterprise should work, et cetera. And so we had to fight again and again. But I said, okay, we're not going to do this bill. We're not going to do the whole big bill, even though it helps everyone, unless our airlines are included again. So there you are, and you're back in the bill. And it's the same thing. No furloughs, no furloughs. Current workers can't be laid off, at least through the time of these loans, through these grants, through March 31st. And they have to bring back the involuntary furloughed people. And so from what I've been told, there are 2,578 additional AFA members in New York who will be called back to work, and 7,000 jobs in the New York metro region that will be saved. So I feel very good about that, because I know every one of you, you're not just a statistic, one of 7,000. Every one of you is a person, many of you with families, with either spouses, children, parents to support. Even if you're not with a family, you want to have a decent life for yourself. You work very hard. So I care about you. Now, one more thing I'll talk about, and then we'll do the questions. Unfortunately, I can't stay on that long, Sarah, because you know a lot's going on around here right now. But in any case, so the vaccine is really our hope. And I'm going to talk about this in a certain way. 2020, Queen Elizabeth, when she addresses her British subjects right before Christmas every year, in 1994, when Princess Diana and Prince Charles were fighting, and it was horrible, she called that year an annus horribilis, horrible year. 2020 for the USA and for the world was an annus horribilis, a horrible year. We had the worst healthcare crisis since the Spanish pandemic flew 100 years ago. Every one of us, I am sure, knows people who have passed away, people who have gotten sick from this terrible disease. Second, it led to the greatest economic crisis since the Great Depression. And it particularly hard hit certain industries, travel, like what you were in, entertainment, restaurants. No one could go to restaurants. Some industries did just fine, but it sort of bifurcated our economy. And for people who were in these industries that were hit hard, and you're at the top of the list there, it was awful, 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 and still is. And then the third thing that happened was we saw all the divisions in America, including racial divisions, and the deaths of people like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and people like that. So it was a horrible year, but I'm a believer in faith, and God came back with three good things that happened at the end, at least in my judgment. I hope in his. One is Donald Trump will no longer be president. And he was a big obstacle to you and a big obstacle to getting anything done for working people. Okay, Joe Biden will be totally different. And Donald Trump was just so divisive and so nasty and setting America back. So it's good he's gone. As a New Yorker, sorry for any Floridians on the phone, on his own. He's moved to Florida, and we New Yorkers say good riddance. We don't want you to come back. The second thing that happened was the vaccine, and that is ultimately our salvation. It was a modern miracle of medical science that the vaccine was produced so quickly. And let me assure everybody, it's safe. It has a 95% success rate and very few side effects. My parents, I feel so good about it. My parents, who are 92 and 97, so they said in New York, if you're over 85, you can get it. I got it for them, and they're fine. They're fine. So the vaccine is amazing. And the Biden administration is making a huge push to get the vaccine out as quickly as possible. Their original goal was 100 million people vaccinated in 100 days. And if they stay on that pattern, by June, We'll probably have over a large majority of Americans vaccinated, and you'll see the airplanes will fill up again with travelers, both business and non-business, and we'll get back to normal. So that was the second good thing. And the third good thing that happened is just what we talked about. We have the COVID bill. As I mentioned, when we passed the first bill, no one thought it would go past the summer. And then Mitch McConnell delayed this bill. He said, we don't need this bill for any reason. Excuse me. Hello? What? I'll call you later. I'm on the Zoom. The bottom line is that, sorry about that. He didn't want a bill. He said, let's wait, let's see, maybe it'll get better. And finally, what finally got us to get the bill done, aside from your needs, was the day after Christmas, 12 million people would have lost their unemployment compensation and had no way to feed their families. They had no money. And that got people to move. So we have this bill. And that's the third thing. One question on all of your minds: what happens past March 31st? Well, it's not just you. We make sure that when these things expire, they all sort of expire together. So the unemployment insurance expires in March. The PPP program expires in March for the 8 weeks. Many of the programs expire, and we may well have to take up a new bill. And if your industry is not back on its feet, it may not be by March 31st. Obviously, we'll fight again for you. This won't be permanent forever, but until COVID goes away, it will be. And so that's where we're at. So that's basically it. I believe in you. You know, some of you my age, you're also young. There was a song by the Monkees called I'm a Believer. Anyone remember it? Then I saw her face, bump, 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 bump. Now I'm a believer. Okay. Well, I'm a believer in you. So just do what I asked, small little things, but I'll fight for you, as they say in Brooklyn, where I'm from, irregardless.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. Yeah, we are working with Chairwoman Cantwell now on an extension because there will be furloughs April 1st without an extension of this. So we're working on that. And
Sarah, did I have any doubt?
So I just want to introduce you to Zeus, Todd, Janessa, and Jennifer, who are on from New York, and who want to really thank you for this, and just give you a little touch on their personal issues and how they got through. So can we start with Zeus?
Hi, Zeus.
Hi.
Just tell me where you live in New York, because I love New York.
I live in Brooklyn.
Me too. I'm the first senator. By the way, I'm the first majority leader from New York, and I'm the first senator from Brooklyn in 180 years. Where do you live? What street?
I live in East New York, so I'm like by Pennsylvania Avenue, right off the highway.
Or near Kennedy Airport, if that's where you work out of.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much, well, I go by Zeus. I'm very thankful for the PSP program because when this all started, it was really just a lot to deal with. You know, a lot of things were going on at home with my family. I had to leave like my apartment. I had to give up my apartment, move in with family, and my dad got sick. My mom got sick.
Sorry.
She was going through surgery, and so was my sister. Then my younger sister was having a baby during the pandemic. Wow. I became this provider at the age of 33 for my family. It was a lot to deal with. And then I was so scared knowing that, you know, what if this doesn't get extended? How I'm going to take care of my family? Where am I going to get money from? I wasn't only providing for myself. Now I had to provide for my family. And I didn't really know what to do. So I was so grateful the first time that it happened. I tried to save so much money, and in the hopes that by October, it would be gone. Yes, but that wasn't the case. But, you know, still grateful for the little bit of help that we got, and I was able to save money, and it was just a lot to deal with. And it's still kind of going on. My family's not 100%, you know, there. I'm still providing for my family with savings and taking care of my family while they're, you know, they lost their jobs. No one was really working but me. And I became this big provider, like I said, by myself for my entire family. And, you know, it was just, it happened so fast. It was, you know, I get emotional talking about it, you know.
You're nice to share it. And let me just say, Zeus, that's one of the reasons this is so important, because it not only affects the actual flight attendants themselves, but usually so many people depend on you. And you're an amazing example. And I pray for all the people in your family, and I hope they get well.
Thank you.
That's right. I just want to note that this program continued healthcare, our retirement payments, we paid taxes, we paid rent. We were able to contribute back into the community this way. It was the best use of the public's money. Todd, can we hear from you?
Hi, Todd.
Yeah. Senator, how are you? It's an honor to meet you. I've been a New Yorker for years, been your constituent for years. I live in Manhattan.
Where do you live?
I live in Manhattan. I live near 13th and 8th Avenue.
Oh, nice. Okay, very nice.
Yeah, so I hope to see you around there soon. But
I ride a bicycle on Saturdays when I'm not in the middle of this job. And there's a 9th Avenue bike path that I take that's near your house down, it goes south. And I'm not a spandex guy. I go pretty slow. So maybe I'll see you one of these days.
That's all right. Janice and I both ride, so we'll see you there. But listen, I'm just another face of somebody who's benefited. I'm a worker who's benefited from PSP. I just want to thank you and Sarah, the union, for your efforts. It's really helped me and my family meet our basic needs throughout the summer, kept me working, earning a paycheck, and earning our health benefits. I was involuntarily furloughed on October 1st. And of course, just a week later, I started having these GI tract issues. I got an appointment with my doctor. Turned out I needed surgery, and it took a while to get in there just because of everything that's going on. I was able to get in there before my benefits run out, and then of course I've been recalled. Thanks to your leadership again. So couldn't be more thankful for that. Couldn't need your leadership now more than ever to continue that, because I'm a cautionary tale. If I had not had my benefits, thanks to the combination of your leadership and AFA, I really don't know what I would have done. And I know I'm not alone in that, so thank you.
And Todd brings up the point that I wanted to make. My family is a union family. My grandpa actually worked in the paper mills in Utica, New York, and was one of the founders of the Paper Workers Union. But without a union, without Sarah and your union leadership, it would have been much harder to make this happen, because, I believed in you and I would have done it no matter what. But the union reached out to senators all across the country, even in states and with senators who would be normally less inclined to be helpful. Unions make a big difference in people's lives. And when you wonder why the middle class is having a rougher time, one of the reasons is there are fewer unions.
Yes. So Todd, thank you so much for your story. And
Thank you.
I want you to hear
Todd,
from
and I
Janessa.
hope you have a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So if we could hear from Janessa now.
Hi, Janessa.
Hi, thank you both again for your leadership. I really can't thank you enough. I had to write some notes because I'm worried I might get a little bit too emotional and not be able to tell you my whole story. But I found out that I was going to lose my job when I was in the hospital with appendicitis.
Oh my God.
And I'm 2 years with the airlines. I'm 2 years in New York. I moved here when I got hired with the airlines. I live in Queens. I'm in Ridgewood, so I'm not far from Brooklyn.
You're not far from Crew Gardens.
Right.
You know that neighborhood? They call it
Yes,
Crew Gardens, but it's Crew Gardens because a lot of flight. Where in Ridgewood do you live? That was my.
I'm off Seneca. I'm by the Seneca M.
Yep, very nice. Yep. It's a nice neighborhood. I ride my bike. I really like do you know St. Matthias Church?
I think so. Yeah.
Beautiful church. Sometimes when I ride my bike, I ride out there because it's beautiful. I go inside. I'm Jewish. Well, I go inside and pray. It's the same God.
My husband's Jewish. We feel the same way about that. But yeah, I just kind of moved here. I was still kind of settling in. I was settling into my new career. I came from university, so I was paying off a lot of debt and everything. And I remember thinking maybe next year I'll finally be somewhat of financially stable and paying my bills and figuring this all out. But instead, I paid my last $3,000 for my deductible, and then I lost my job. I ended up getting COVID like immediately after that. and I was too sick to really start applying for jobs. I also have, I'm going through ongoing treatment for early stages of colon cancer. So I was very scared about what was going to happen with my health insurance, because it is literally my lifeline. I looked for jobs and I ended up going on unemployment. I waited 8 weeks to get unemployment, and I ended up having to sell my eggs to pay for my rent.
Oh, golly.
I got married in October, October 10th, on a Zoom call, and I spent $30 on my wedding dress. And
I'm sure you look beautiful, Janice.
thank you. And my husband's going through his green card process, and at the time I couldn't sponsor him because I didn't have a job. Now I will be able to sponsor him.
Oh, good. So that's a happy ending.
That's a happy ending for sure. I'm very grateful for this PSP. I'm grateful for the assistance that the airlines has gotten, because it's literally meant my life. I want to work and I'm ready to work. When there is a lapse, we lose our qualifications. And so we do have this, I feel like we're always kind of 4 months behind when that happens, because we need to all go through retraining. So I'm ready to work. I cannot work yet because of the training I have to wait for. But I know that this is, like, I'm grateful for the PSP. I know that we got to keep staying on top of the PSP as well.
That's great. I really like hearing your stories because, I believe in you, but when you hear these stories, it so moves you that you just got to work even harder to make sure this happens again.
Janessa is a really good example of why I'm here today, even with battling COVID. So she talks about a really important thing, that our qualifications gets lapsed. So while we got the legislation to say that pay and benefits were restored as of December 1st, many of the flight attendants won't be qualified to fly again almost till the end of the emergency relief period. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen again, and we've got continuity going forward April 1st. Janessa, thank you so much. Jennifer, can we hear from you?
Last but not least, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
My name is Jennifer Ritter. I actually live in Poughkeepsie in the Mid-Hudson area.
I know Poughkeepsie well, yes.
And my husband is also in aviation, works out of LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK. So we have 2 kids that are elementary school aged, and middle of March, all of a sudden, everything started falling apart on us. And the schools announced that we were going to have to start doing remote learning. And at the same time, our jobs were falling apart too. And, from initially losing just flights to China in February, we started losing flights to Europe and everywhere else in March. And all of a sudden, our schedules were chaotic and unpredictable. And those of us who've been through this before, even following 9/11, I've never seen anything like this, what's happened over the past year. While not as emotionally wrenching as the initial moments following 9/11, this has been just devastating for so many people. And, without this payroll support program that we had, we would have seen people out on the street probably as early as April or May. And just the depth of the cuts that were made, it was, we have 25,000 or so flight attendants at our airline, and our company cut 60% of us. And initially the cutoff line was people who had been there since 1996. And, we were looking at devastating consequences, and we were so grateful to have the support that got us through the end of September. And in spite of, incredible bipartisan support on both sides of Congress, we weren't able to get that extended in time for that to be a continuous program. And that's when we started seeing all the furloughs take effect on October 1st, where people have been out of job now for 3-4 months. They've been not working since then. Just coming back to work with the recall with the bill that was finally signed, people are without a paycheck for at least 2 months. And coming back, we have about 8,000 flight attendants ready to work, but 6,000 of them need requalification training.
And that is, why do you need requalification training? you know,
So FAA mandates that we have annual training, and if we don't get into a training class within the month that we are scheduled to, our qualifications lapse, and it is automatic that we have to go back to requalification. And for our company to schedule the training is a whole new can of worms now, because the class sizes have to be smaller. The measures that we have to take to keep us safe in the classrooms are a lot more involved, and it's a logistical nightmare. It really
Also, Leader
maybe-
Schumer, they shut
maybe-
down the training centers for 2 months at
maybe
a
we
minimum.
can- If we have to do another bill, right in there that not eliminate the requalification standards, but to lapse them for people in certain situations, such as all of the people here who were laid off because of COVID. Let's think about that. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Maybe we can put it in there. 'Cause
I'll get with Jerry.
yeah, it makes no sense. People didn't lose their knowledge in a few months, you know?
No, but they had to hand in their badges and everything, and
Yeah, no,
so
I know.
we've got all the security clearance and the certifications,
If
and there
there's
were
something-
already some waivers that the FAA gave because the training center was shut down for several months when COVID started. So
Got it.
we're up against the wall a little bit there.
Okay, so anyway, thank you all for your wonderful stories. They move me, and not only move my heart, but will move my brain, hands, and body to do more for you. I will do everything I can. And Sarah, I'm gonna have to go, but I
Okay.
thank you. I thank all the people listening. Speedy recovery to everybody, and we'll be back there for you again. Okay?
Leader Schumer, thank you so much. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. You have really been our champion. And I'm just going to say goodbye to our members after you go here. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna get on. Don't forget your promises to me.
No,
Yeah, I know
No.
you won't. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. So we had a lot of questions. We'll try to get the questions answered for everybody who sent those questions in. Want to thank you very much. You heard on this call today that we are working to extend PSP through September. We're working with Chairwoman Maria Cantwell now, who's the chair of the Commerce Committee. And there is obviously a coronavirus bill that is being discussed now in Congress about continuing the support. We know that warn notices will start to go out at the end of this month, but we are going to work very hard to make sure that we don't have that interruption with the furlough starting before April 1st. So we're going to call on all of you very soon to take part in calling on your members of Congress to support extending the PSP in this next coronavirus relief bill. And we believe that we can get this done. So stay with it, stay in support of each other. And I just want to go back to where I started the call. You know, this is about saving the jobs right now. But what this is also about is making sure that we continue the narrative of workers first in this country. There are people who will seek to take more in cuts from workers in times of crisis. And our work on getting the PSP is not just about saving the jobs that otherwise would be furloughed. It's about supporting our careers overall and making sure that we are not paying for the brunt of this pandemic, that we are getting through on the other side, able to restore airlines and able to get to a place where we can actually bargain for something better than what we have today. I want to thank all of you so much for being on the front lines. I want to thank you for your support all the time. I am going to get back into bed and try to recover because we have a lot of fights going forward, but we're in a much better position to take up those fights now. I want to thank very much Zeus, Todd, Janessa, and Jennifer for being on and telling your personal stories. We know that there are tens of thousands of stories out there that are much like the ones that they told. And this is why we have to stick together and fight forward. So thank you very much, everyone. We're going to continue to fight for PSP extended and a workers first recovery. Have a good afternoon, and we'll talk soon.